The other day I was sitting in the shade. I was having a beer while the kids played. They were all laughing and splashing in the sun. When the love of my life came up to me and she said, "Granddad, can I sit in your knee?" I said, "You sure can, sweetheart. What do you know?" She said, "Granddad, you've been round a long, long while." I must admit that made me smile. I said, "Yes, I have. I've been around a year or 3. But she looked at me sort of seriously, this little slip of a girl sitting on my knee. And then she said, "Granddad, what's a pommy?" Well, I was taken aback, sort of taken by surprise, and I looked and I realised she was serious. She really wanted to know. So I sipped my drink and I started to think, and my thoughts went back a long, long time ago. And I said, "All right, sweetheart, I'll tell you what I know." The very first Pommy that I ever met was a Tommy. Do you know what that means? No. Well, a Tommy is what they used to call a British soldier. We were just 2 young fellas in a foreign land fighting this war, knee-deep in sand and having a go at each other all the while. Like he'd laugh and he'd say, "Show us your convict chains," and I'd threaten to scramble his Pommy brains, and we'd argue the toss all night about whose beer was best. But when the cannon roared, we stood side by side as our fathers had done in days gone by. And we showed the world we stood as one. Well, finally that war was done. It was time for me to ship back home, back to this sunburnt land that I love so much. But I had to say goodbye to that Pommy bee before we set sail across the sea. So I trudged the desert sands to say farewell. But the end of the war had come too late. So I took some flowers to my Pommy mate and I laid them by the cross that bore his name. And you know, I miss that Pommy bee. Yeah, I really miss that Pommy bee. Then again, there's the whinging Pom. He'll moan and groan and go on and tell you that nothing here is as good as it is back home. But for every one that you get like that, there's 1,000 to whom I'd raise my hat, and I'm glad they choose this land to make their home. Of course, there's blokes who'll tell you I've got it wrong, that there's no such thing as a decent Pom. But don't go listening to them. They're just fools. Without the Poms, we wouldn't be here. They settled this land and they're still coming here. And as long as I don't have to drink their beer, they're welcome. Of course, when the cricket's on, now that's another thing. You gotta kill the Poms, you gotta win, and there's no holds barred on either side. And you know, the Poms wouldn't have it any other way. They'd rather beat the Aussies any day than any other mob that they ever play. But when the game's over and the fuss has died down, you'll see all the guys all gathered around, sharing a beer at the bar, the best of mates. Now I'll tell you something that's quite a joke that my first Pommy mate would appreciate. If only he could be here to share this beer. Because after all is said and done, he'd laugh like mad if he knew my son had married an English girl and given us you. And now here you are sitting on my knee, waiting for an answer so seriously. So I'll tell you what a Pommy is, sweetheart. A Pommy is you.